Hey everyone, how are you? If you're not excited about this news yet, you definitely will be. Here's the thing. With Dragon Ball Super in its mastering phase and many updates about the continuation of the anime, with the new Galactic Patrol Saga arriving, we have bombshell news. Super Saiyan 5? That's right, guys. Come with me and stay until the end of the video so you can understand everything. Go subscribe right now, leave your like, and turn on the notification bell. Within the logic that Toyotaro himself built throughout the Dragon Ball Super manga, he is going to make Gohan reach a state that visually and conceptually resembles Super Saiyan 5, without ever using that name and without copying the fan-made design. And this would not be forced or inconsistent. On the contrary, it would be a natural consequence of the way Gohan Beast was presented. The narrative starts from a very clear point. Toyotaro has always separated evolutionary paths. Goku follows the path of instinct and angelic technique. Vegeta walks the path of pride and divine destruction, and Gohan does not follow gods, angels, or pure Saiyan traditions. Beast is born exactly from this rupture. It is not a numbered Super Saiyan form. It is not divine. It is not ritualistic. It is his hybrid potential finally unleashed without filters. When this happens, the visual already points to something that immediately reminds fans of the SSJ5 imagery. Excessively long and wild hair, intense eyes, oppressive aura, and a presence that does not depend on constant ki explosions to be felt. If Toyotaro wanted to advance this, the next logical step would not be to change hair color again, but to change the state of the form. The hair could grow even longer, not for aesthetics, but as a consequence of raw energy leaking from his body, something that already happens in Beast. The aura could become more silent, denser, less flashy, as if the power were compressed instead of exploding. This detail is essential because it is exactly what made Super Saiyan 5 look different from 4 in classic fan arts. It wasn't just strength, it was absolute mastery. Narratively, Gohan is the perfect character for this. He has always been described as someone who breaks emotional limiters since childhood. Raditz, Frieza, Cell, Buu, all these moments show that his power does not grow gradually. It leaps. Beast is already treated in the manga as something that does not follow normal scales, and Toyotaro reinforces this by avoiding numerical explanations or direct comparisons with Goku and Vegeta. This opens space for an evolution that does not need to compete with Ultra Instinct or Ultra Ego, but simply exists on another axis. Visually, this evolution could resemble Super Saiyan 5 by conceptual coincidence, not direct homage. Light or slightly silver hair, more adult facial features, an almost inhuman expression of total focus, eyes that do not show explosive rage, but an absolutely controlled fury. This fits Gohan far more than Goku. While Goku empties himself to fight by instinct, Gohan concentrates to the maximum, as if all his hatred, fear, and desire to protect were compressed into a single point. And most importantly, this would not violate canon. Toyotaro has already made it clear, in interviews and in the manga itself, that future transformations do not need to follow the old logic of Super Saiyan 1, 2, 3. Beast is already proof of that. If it evolves, it will not be Beast 2 or Super Saiyan 5. It will be treated as a maturation of the state, total mastery, maybe even a form where Gohan no longer needs to activate anything. He simply is that when the situation demands it. In the end, what fans call Super Saiyan 5 has always represented the idea of a Saiyan who reached the end of the traditional path. Toyotaro can deliver exactly this with Gohan, without copying AF, without explicit fan service, just by following the internal logic of the character. And ironically, if this happens, many people will look at it and say it looks like SSJ5, not because it is, but because the concept fans imagined 20 years ago finally found a legitimate place inside canon. But where did Super Saiyan 5 come from? This idea and everything about it, come understand it with us. The story begins outside the official Dragon Ball radar, in a period when the franchise was practically frozen. No new episodes, no active manga, and no clear perspective of continuation after the end of Dragon Ball GT. It was in this void that Super Saiyan 5 was born, not as an editorial decision, but as a direct response from the fandom to the absence of new material. In the early 2000s, the internet was still a less regulated territory. Forums, personal websites, and fan communities worked like creative laboratories, and Dragon Ball was one of the most fertile franchises for this type of imaginative expansion. Super Saiyan 5 first appeared in fan arts, long before any structured story, as a visual attempt to go beyond Super Saiyan 4, which at the time was the known peak of Saiyan power. The design immediately caught attention. Long white or silver hair, a more serious look, almost divine posture. A direct contrast to the wild appearance of SSJ4. That image began circulating from forum to forum, often without clear authorship, which helped create the myth that it was something lost, secret, or even leaked from supposed official material. It is in this context that Dragon Ball AF enters the picture. Contrary to what many people still believe today, AF was never an official project nor supervised by Akira Toriyama. The acronym AF never officially meant After the Future. afterlife, or any canonical subtitle. This was created later by fans to give the idea a more legitimate feel. For a long time, many fans truly believed that Toyotaro created it, that he created Super Saiyan 5, but Toyotaro is not the creator of Dragon Ball AF. However, his name became linked to AF for a very specific reason, which caused confusion for many years. The origin of Dragon Ball AF is scattered among various fans and artists. It was not born as a single organized project with centralized authorship, and much less as something professional at first. The concept of AF emerged as loose ideas in Japanese and Western forums, with drawings of new transformations, original villains, and imagined continuations of Dragon Ball GT. Within this creative environment, Super Saiyan 5 appeared as fan art, with no defined story, no clear author, just as an impactful image that looked like the next logical step after SSJ4. The artist who truly consolidated the visual of Super Saiyan 5 was Tablos, also known as Young Gigi. He was responsible for that classic design of long white hair, a more adult body, and an almost divine aura, which ended up becoming the official face of SSJ5 within the fandom. This detail is important because many people mix up the names, but Tablos is not Toyotaro. At the time, Toyotaro still used the pseudonym Toyble and was beginning to gain attention on the internet with his own doujinshis, which were fan stories but with much more structured narratives and very close to Toriyama style. Toyotaro's work that really projected him was not Dragon Ball AF, but something AF-like in a conceptual sense, especially Dragon Ball Zero and later Dragon Ball Heroes Victory Mission, as well as a very specific doujinshi that became popular called Dragon Ball AF, but which had no direct relation to the classic SSJ5. The version of AF associated with Toyotaro was completely different from what fans usually imagine. There was no Super Saiyan 5, no white hair, no almost angelic Goku. His focus was on expanding concepts, new enemies, cosmic threats, and strategic battles, something that later became very clear when he officially took over the Dragon Ball Super manga. The crucial point is that Toyotaro never claimed to have created Super Saiyan 5, nor the popular version of AF. On the contrary, his style has always been more restrained, more aligned with Toriyama's logic, with less exaggerated transformations and greater attention to the mechanics of power. While classic AF was pure maximum extrapolation of the Saiyan myth, Toyotaro already showed interest in something more technical, more conceptual, something we clearly see today in Ultra Instinct, Ultra Ego, and in the way power is treated in Super. The confusion intensified because, years later, Toyotaro was personally chosen by Akira Toriyama to illustrate and co-write Dragon Ball Super. When that happened, many people looked back, remembered his doujinshis, and started saying that the creator of Dragon Ball AF is now the official author, which is not true. He was an extremely talented fan who created his own stories inspired by Dragon Ball, but AF as a collective phenomenon, and especially Super Saiyan 5, did not originate from him. So, putting everything into perspective within the history of the franchise, Dragon Ball AF is an umbrella term for various fan creations. Super Saiyan 5 is a visual symbol created and popularized by artists like Tablos, and Toyotaro is a rare case of someone who came from the fandom, demonstrated narrative and artistic mastery, and was eventually absorbed officially into the main work. This explains why today many things that once looked like AF, such as divine levels, absurd power scales, and cosmic threats, exist canonically but reimagined, refined, and legitimized within Toriyama's vision. Before Superhero existed, Toyotaro had already drawn versions of Gohan in fan arts and doujinshis with extremely spiky hair, aggressive expression, heavily marked eyes, and an aura that mixed contained fury with control. These drawings circulated very little outside Japan, but those who know them recognize the pattern. The Gohan that Toyotaro liked to portray was not the passive scholar. It was the Gohan who explodes when someone crosses a moral line. This is exactly the conceptual base of Beast, not a divine form, not an angelic technique, but the raw power of hybrid potential finally unleashed. When Toyotaro was already working on Dragon Ball Super, this became even clearer in specific moments of the manga. In several panels, especially in the Moro and Granola arcs, Gohan is drawn with much harsher features than in the anime, with heavy shadows over his eyes and hair that looks almost out of control, even without a new transformation. Visually, this was already preparing the ground for something like Beast, even if the final name and concept came from the movie with direct supervision from Toriyama. The central point is that Toyotaro has always treated evolution as a change in mental state before a change in aesthetics. The fandom's Super Saiyan 5 was visually exaggerated, but it symbolized this: a Saiyan who transcended rage. Gohan Beast does exactly the complementary opposite. He does not transcend rage, he completely masters it. Both arise from the same question: what happens when a Saiyan stops depending on multipliers and starts accessing something that was always inside him? So, even without ever officially drawing a Super Saiyan 5 or anything with that name, Toyotaro was one of the few authors coming from the fandom who truly transformed that raw imagination into mature narrative language. What used to be AF became, in his and Toriyama's hands, Ultra Instinct, Ultra Ego, and Beast not as copies but as canonical versions, more contained, more coherent, and precisely because of that, much more dangerous within the story. Dragon Ball AF itself also explored concepts that would only be touched officially by Dragon Ball Super many years later, which further confused fans. The idea of multiple levels of divinity, Goku facing beings above the Kaioshins, battles on cosmic scales. All of this already appeared in AF versions long before Beerus, Whis, or the multiverse officially existed. There was also great exploration of Saiyan legacy, with hybrid forms, exclusive evolutions for Vegeta, Gohan, or even original fan-made characters, along with entirely new villains usually linked to the collapse of time, divine corruption, or punishment for Goku surpassing limits that no mortal should cross. Within those stories, Super Saiyan 5 symbolized the final point of the classic transformation escalation. It was not just stronger than 4, it was presented as the end of the traditional Saiyan path, something that eliminated the need for new hair colors or numerical multipliers. That is why, even being fan-made, it marked so many people. For many fans, that form felt more coherent than simply stacking new numbered Super Saiyans, because it brought back the primal side of 4 while adding an almost angelic aspect, something that, ironically, fits very well with concepts that would only become official decades later with Ultra Instinct. In the end, Dragon Ball AF was never an official manga, never published by Shueisha, never recognized by Toei, but it became one of the greatest collective creative phenomena in anime fandom. Super Saiyan 5 does not exist in canon, but it exists in the emotional memory of an entire generation that grew up believing Dragon Ball still had much to tell, even when the franchise seemed finished. That is why, to this day, whenever Dragon Ball approaches divine territory, absolute instinct, or the fusion between Saiyan nature and higher power, the name Super Saiyan 5 comes back into the conversation, not as confirmation, but as a symbol of what fans imagined when the official work was silent. And since they already brought Broly from another universe, now would be the perfect time for Super Saiyan 5, so what do you think, guys?